All right, welcome to the 10th green at Glenwild Golf Club and Spa in Park City, Utah. This is one of my favorite holes on the golf course. It is a relatively short downhill par 4. Typically, golfers will kind of play to lay up in this area, maybe a little bit more risk reward. They'll try to shoot it up through the gap close to the front of the green, and your longest of hitters can tackle the water, the penalty area water here, and bunkering and try to fly it onto the green. If you take a look, it's quite a ways downhill from up here. We're at 6,602 feet on the tee box there, and down here at the green, we're at 6,554. So looks like we're about a 45-foot drop or so from there, from the tee box down. So let's take a look at the green, because again, everybody has to get here at some point, whether it's in one shot or 4 or 5 shots. This green itself is challenging because it is a shorter hole. The architect has done a great job of creating a challenge. Just like par 5 greens are typically more challenging, shorter hole greens are usually more challenging as well. So let's take a look at it from the Google Earth imagery. I can tell you that right here, in fact, you can kind of see how it's a little darker green. There is a drainage cap down in here. The green sits here at 56,553. Down here, it's about the same elevation, although there is a little bit of a drop off into the front section of the green. The back section of the green does have a little bit of slope, and it will sometimes kick the ball off the hill down onto the green, but it can also get caught up in the rough there. And then this huge bunker down here in the front is quite intimidating from the approach shot area, which is back here, because you're kind of hitting over the corner of the water, over the bunker to this green that kind of sits mostly in this direction from your approach shot right here. So let's take a look at the Strakaline green reading book and just kind of see what we have to work with here. We're going to start, like we always do, putting some hole locations in these blue and green sections. So this is always a good tricky hole location over here in that right hand side of the green. This one back here it gets challenging, and I'll explain why here in a minute. These are the two simpler hole locations, kind of in the left side of the green. We'll call it back left and front left. So let's divide this very skinny green into quadrants, and then we'll take a look at it here. So when you're approaching into this green, strategically we want to make sure that you have the best opportunity to score your lowest, no matter how many strokes it has taken you to get here. So we're going to use our 20 by 20 margin of error zone here. We're going to move it around and take a look and see how many holes are located in these quadrants and what may be our potential difficulties. So the biggest concern in the back left quadrant is really just the back of the green and how severe it is. You can see the pink section here is indicating how severe that slope is. This is pushing 6 to 10 to 12% on the slope, and it pushes down here pretty quickly from the back of the green. So that does pose a problem. Good news is it can act as a little bit of a backstop when you're hitting your shot into this area. But let's continue to move around and take a look. So let's look at the back right. Very similar story with even a greater penalty. Sometimes we have a nice hole location right here in the back section, which is very cool. But if you're tempted to go for it and you miss that green long right here, that is a short-sighted, very, very difficult little chip. Typically, you'll barely trundle your ball onto the green and it'll roll all the way down to the front, and occasionally through this little red zone, it'll even roll off the green. So that in itself can be very challenging there. Let's take a look at front right. Front right quadrant does have this whole location down here in it. Probably the greatest location for disaster. We have a penalty area that runs right up against the edge of the bunker through here and goes right along the edge. I'll see if I can change my arrow to kind of show you the shape of that. Right, so that penalty area basically wraps all the way around and over to here. So very challenging hole location, and what makes it even challenging from a green complex standpoint is this pink area right here. There's some big high mounding just over the back of this bunker, which will kick the ball down and to the right. So when you pitch a shot in or hit a shot in over this bunker, if you just barely land it on the green right here, the tendency is for that ball to kind of kick back over here, and possibly, I'll create a curve, possibly it kind of does this. So you can fly it over into this pink section with some spin. It'll kind of move up here toward this red section, and then it will bank all the way back into the green. So you can actually use that, but that is a very, very small, 2-yard by 2-yard kind of, maybe more 5-yard or 8-yard by 8-yard little square section to land your ball in. So skilled golfers that can control a short pitch shot or a wedge, obviously you can take advantage of some of that slope in that front section to make this front right section a little easier. However, I've seen many balls pitch into the face of this bunker and roll down, so that can be very challenging. So let's take a look at the front left section. The front left quadrant does escape this bunker just barely, and in and around the front of the screen, it can slope a little bit away from you, but most shots coming in and landing just short of the green will hit a slight upslope and stop pretty quickly there. So I would say at this point the easiest safe zone, for all of your shots, if you always played to the front left side of the screen, you're going to have your greatest opportunity to score consistently well. As you can see, these two hole locations in particular on the left side are very accessible from a front left shot, right where my arrow is pointed in here. And even this hole location right here is accessible, again, from that front left section, even if you're short of the green. The only one that makes it extremely challenging from there is this one in the back. Back over here and down here on the right-hand side. The reason for that is that it can be really challenging trying to figure out which way that putt breaks. Sometimes you play up here thinking it's going to come back, and it doesn't come back as much. And that's because these arrows through here, you can see, are actually pointing from front of the green to the back of the green. So sometimes you actually have to play your putt over here a little bit, and it becomes a double breaker because you'll play over here, it'll break that way, and then it'll break back to the hole. But again, the only time it's going to cause you significant headache is if that hole is located over here on the right-hand side and you hit your ball over here on the left. I would say for better players, more skilled players, and even if we have this 20-yard margin, we can take up the entire right-hand side of the green and just kind of roll the dice on this one, right? If you're able to hit it somewhere in the center of the screen, right where my arrow is pointed here, then go for it, right? Because this little chip shot's not too bad. This chip shot down here on the front right gets a little concerning because it may put you in the penalty area over here. I would say because of that, I might fudge this safe zone back up just in the back section just a little bit. So let's take a look at the Google Earth image and drop in a couple of safe zones and talk about what they look like. So I'm going to say, based on this, We have one single safe zone that pretty much works for every single shot, and we're going to position that right in here. And like I said, based on your skill level, you may turn around and say, okay, well, I'm going to take on that left-hand side of the green. I'm not just going to play extremely conservatively and safely. And that's up to you. I would say if there was one location, it would be right here. A second location, we're going to say your target zone is the middle to slightly back of that right-hand section of the green. Right? I think that does give you the safety you need, even in a 20 by 20 yard safe zone. But it also can be challenging because mishits, even if they come up short, could roll into the penalty area or that bunker. So here you go. Here's the 10th green, downhill par 4, relatively short distance at Glenwild. And I appreciate you joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.